A furious roar echoed through the darkness. How dare she refuse? The heroine stood frozen, a bloody blade in her hand. Her dress was soaked in splashes of scarlet. She had to run, now. Horror gripped her heart as she turned and fled. The Empire was plunged into the darkness of night. The moon and stars lit the frightened girl's path as she rushed away, her breath ragged. The cold currents of the river raged ahead, their roar matching the chaos in her mind. In the rippling water, she saw her reflection, bloodied and broken. She had no other choice. The river was wild and unforgiving. If she jumped now, she would surely die. Cold sweat and salty tears streamed down her face. But she would not die. That much had already been decided. Icy wind tormented her as she stood on the bow of a ship, but she didn't feel it. Her mind was numb. Maybe this was the only way. If only she could avoid such a terrible fate. She was so tired, so very tired. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. It would all end quickly. Her thin, blood-stained hands began to loosen their grip on the railing. Her fingers slowly uncurled, obedient to her decision. And then, graceful and tragic, her silhouette in the bloodied dress tipped forward, falling into the raging mouth of the river. If only she could defy her fate. That was her last thought. The strong current swallowed her without hesitation. The waves clashed overhead, claiming the uninvited guest. 6 months later, the people of the Empire greeted a new day with serenity. In a quiet corner of the main square, a wooden sign creaked softly in the morning breeze. Cardinal. A cozy cafe, beloved by locals. I wish I could meet the main character already. When will she finally appear? Someone muttered. Her name is Lorena. She's the servant of Duke Claven. But once she was Laura, a 27-year-old woman from South Korea. 6 months ago, she was transported into a novel called The Blind Beast's Flower. Her employer now, the protagonist, Elon Claven, the Empire's most formidable swordmaster, undefeated, favoured by the heavens, known for his piercing red eyes. The Eyes of Odor. He had many titles. Now, they called him the Blind Beast. He had been poisoned during a battle and lost the will to live. The antidote? A rare flower that bloomed for only 10 days, right in his own garden. In the original story, the heroine Karina finds the flower, cures him, and he falls in love. Elon proposes, and they live happily ever after. Lorena's mission is simple. Ensure the story unfolds as written, without interfering. Only then, perhaps, can she return to her world. But there's a problem. She only read the beginning and the ending of the novel. Her role? A secondary, faceless character. In one scene, Karina once asked Elon to stop because there were servants nearby, and the Duke told his #1 maid to leave. Without a name, without mention again. That was her. Simple, right? But where is Karina? The flower bloomed a week ago. Lorena has done everything right, so why hasn't the heroine appeared? Her return home depends on the story's conclusion. She can't stay here forever. Soon. Elon will return from his meeting with the Emperor. And, as his only servant, Lorena knows she's in for a severe scolding. After all, she had left her blind master behind. The beast had no other helpers. She couldn't just stay here, doing nothing. She needed to go inside Cardinal and find out what she could, no matter how little. A cheerful greeting rang out as she entered the cafe. Welcome. Anything the young lady wants. Lorena nodded politely, scanning the room. She was looking for someone. Silver hair, emerald eyes. With such striking features, the person she sought wouldn't go unnoticed. Beauty was always a signature trait of main characters in these novels. But no, nothing. Just the usual crowd. The young man at the counter saw only a beautiful woman with violet eyes. A bald customer cast a displeased glance her way. Do they all really look the same? One of them muttered. Then a finger pointed toward the wall. That lady over there, she looks just like the girl on the poster. Elsia Uther. Golden hair, violet eyes. Wanted. Do not harm. Capture and report to the Temple of Huna. Reward, 99,999 gold. Just another day in Nolla. Only 3 days left before the flower withered. This ridiculous world of romantic novels. How was it so hard to find the main character? Let that golden-haired girl slow down, someone shouted suddenly. 11. A heavy hand slammed down onto Lorena's wrist. What was this ignorant orc doing? She's the one from the poster, someone said eagerly. There's a huge reward for her. Idiots. What did they want with a simple maid? Be quiet, don't attract attention, one muttered. We're not going to hurt her. We'll just take her to the temple, cash in. What was she now, a cow at market? People can't be sold. Don't they know that? She kicked one of them in the shin. What did he say? Oh, that bastard. She bit his hand next. Then, a shadow, a threatening silhouette appeared behind the scoundrels. With a single, effortless movement, the mighty beast threw the bald man aside. He crashed to the ground with a sickening thud. What the hell is this guy doing? One of the men stammered. We saw her first. She's ours. He gestured toward Lorena like she was merchandise. But the blind beast, Elonclave, instantly pulled Lorena into a protective embrace. His hand, strong and warm, gripped her tightly. Why is she thinking about that now? How dare they treat a lady so rudely? Wait, one man whispered. Is this guy blind? Did a blind man just knock out my friend with one hand? They started laughing nervously. Look, just move along. She's staying with us. She's our prize. You don't want trouble, do you? Elon didn't flinch. Lorena squealed in panic. Be careful, she shouted. But he didn't need to see them. The beast disarmed and disabled them effortlessly. Leon Claven, truly the greatest of warriors. So this was what she left the Duke's mansion for. Adventure? No. She only wanted to drink tea after his meeting with the Emperor. When she hadn't been at the mansion, Elo had come looking for her. Alone. In a dangerous city. And that, she realized, was exactly what a main character would do. She'd wanted to visit Cardinal for a long time. But why was a man like him, with all his titles and glory, speaking so casually to her? Since they were both here, they might as well have some tea. Lorena smiled. Finally. Her plan had worked. Maybe, just maybe, they'd run into Karina here. Mr. Elon wanted the same tea and chocolate as the maid. Just like after his meeting with the Emperor. Even though she saw him every day, Lorena couldn't help but admire his beauty. Here he was, the protagonist, in the flesh. His Majesty had summoned the beast for a personal conversation. The Duke rarely left home. This was the first time Lorena had seen him in a formal tailcoat, and how it suited him. The Emperor believed it was time for Leland to marry, for the continuation of the Claven line. Why does he care so much? And who had been chosen as the bride? Elon didn't know. Apparently His Majesty would decide. How romantic. What nonsense. Lorena smacked the table. Why was she reacting like this? It wasn't her they were marrying off. What about true feelings? A connection deeper than blood, stronger than death? Where was the sweeping romance of all those short stories? And Bridget here? Why are you shouting? Elin asked, puzzled. Among nobility, marriage is political, he said. It's not unusual. But Elon will have to spend his whole life with her. Shouldn't he marry someone he loves? Like Karina, she added quickly. Yes, the main character must fall in love with the main heroine. Elon blinked. What kind of beast hasn't read fairy tales? Lorena flushed. Of course I believe that. Marriage without love is just sad. She had to return to her world. Let her think rationally. Who needs a blind husband anyway? He's just a burden. What did you say? Elon asked sharply. Lorena was about to slap him. No, he's beautiful. He'll find love. Or maybe he won't find anyone. Just a maid. Elon, sensing her discomfort, softened. The Duke is grateful to you, he said, but I can feel eyes watching us. Of course, they were sitting in full view. People were staring, probably because he was so striking, or maybe because of her. Red hair, blue eyes, dark skin. She stood out, a walking contradiction. She looked like a walking South Korean flag. What's Korea? Elon asked. Oh no. Her appearance was rare here. May I touch it? He asked quietly. Touch? Your face. You said you were unusual. I want to understand. Lorena froze. He was her employer. She couldn't refuse, but this felt far too personal. Still, he was blind. His other senses were more acute. Fine. Let the young man touch her. Elon carefully removed his glove and murmured an apology for the sudden request. Lorena took his hand gently, guiding it toward her cheek. His palm was cold, but strangely magnetic. Strong fingers traced the contours of her face, lingering at her chin. Then the beast's hand slowly withdrew. Lorena sighed, her heart heavy. Had he seen through her? But Elon smiled, radiant. You really do have an unusual appearance. Come on, seriously? This guy is so sweet, it's unfair. If only she were a different character. No. Stop. She was here for a reason. The cafe was full of people. She could hear them. Cardinal was in the centre of the square, with round tables like the ones at the Duke's mansion. Thin curtains hung in the windows, though they were grimy and hadn't been washed in ages. Sunlight filtered through the clouds, bathing the place in soft warmth. The view was beautiful, the atmosphere peaceful. Lorena had lied today, but if Elon didn't like this place, he might never come again. And this was supposed to be where he met Karina. Karina, the orphan girl from a remote village. She was adopted by a noble relative and brought to the capital for her debut. Before that, she had wandered into this cafe, and she had been attacked by bandits. That was when Ilan left his mansion for the first time, and saved her. After that, they became good friends. The main character visited the young man in his mansion, found a healing flower in his garden, and restored his sight. But by this time, Elon should have already met Karina and regained his vision. There were only 2 days left, so where was this frivolous girl? A person's life was at stake here. By the way, the Duke had long wanted to ask the maid about her unusual name. The young master knew that the maid had recently lost her memory, so he was curious too, but explaining what her name meant would only drag the story on longer. It seemed like the girl was finally coming to her senses. Thank God the young miss is alive, said an elderly couple, anxiously. She was covered in blood, and they had feared the worst. What kind of place is this? One asked. Apparently a lady from a noble family. How does she feel? She seems fine, said another. Can we use their mobile phone? The elderly woman's face froze in confusion at the girl's words. Maybe she had ended up in some remote village on the outskirts. This was Laura's first memory after her rebirth. If she reached the ending, she might be able to return home. The first thing she did was look for a job, and the only offer she could get was as a servant to Duke Claven. Without documents, it was the only acceptable work. All the other maids had fled from the blind beast, despite the good pay. So, would this lady stay or run? What's her name? Someone asked. Well, let's say Lorena, someone answered. A typical name for a romantic novel. When Lorena arrived at the mansion, it was immediately clear that the beast lived in hopeless despondency. A great hero could track his target using only unique instincts. Blindness shouldn't have been a problem, But Elon had given up his title as the greatest knight and all his honours after being poisoned. The strongest and most beautiful warrior had lost the will to live. Lorena looked around nervously and swallowed hard. She brought the master his clothes. The poisoned beast had become a true horror to the people. They didn't understand his pain and despair, so they feared him. But Elon Clavane didn't want to be understood. He didn't want anything. He simply plunged into eternal darkness. All the servants fled at night as if he were a monster. The maids threw their uniforms on the floor by the door, afraid to enter his room. Everyone, except Lorena. She knew the beautiful soul walled up inside those blocks of oppression and pain. The new maid entered her master's private chambers with ease. Lorena never tried to escape. The beast did not frighten her, and she returned to him every day. The maid tidied his bedroom, took care of his daily routine and meals. The soup was still hot. He needed to wait a little longer. Today, the young master had chicken broth. It would do him good. She gently urged him to open his mouth. Lorena truly had warm feelings for the main character. She secretly admired and cared for him. At first, the hunted beast had trouble trusting his only servant, but the maid returned day after day, witnessing his pain and suffering. Most importantly, Lorena never gave up, despite the beast's unwillingness to live. "Well, what does the handsome warrior say? How do you like the fresh chicken broth?" she asked softly. "The soup is really tasty," Elon said. Step by step, Elon Clavane began to emerge from his despair and depression. The main character received a cane for the blind and began practicing to walk. After 2 years bedridden, Ilan finally began to walk again. So after 6 months of Lorena's care and support, the beast finally recovered and started to live again. "The gentleman must be very tired today," Lorena said, preparing to bring him dinner. The main character sighed heavily and threw his head back. He knew he shouldn't indulge in fantasies. It was foolish to expect the girl to see a man in him. He was weak and feeble. Today was such a friendly day. The sun shone even through the curtains. The maid wanted to ask something. Had the young gentleman ever been to the Cardinal Cafe? "Although it's for commoners," she added, "it's still quite popular." The main character crossed his arms. He had never even heard of such a place. "Is it really famous in the capital? And why do you ask, just like that?" "It's a fairly well-known place in the Empire," Lorena explained. By the way, she almost forgot. She had to take a report from the local priest, Bernard, the manager of Duke Claven's staff. "This Cardinal Cafe is usually where couples meet," she said. Bernard didn't need to know how his lordship knew about the place. Well, how could one ignore the curiosity of others? Bernard was interested and free enough to whine. "Let Bernard get to work," Lorena said, pulling out the report. "Well, let's start with this month's reports. How interesting. Lovers meet at this cafe?" Why did she start talking about this place? What if Lorena wanted to go there with Elon? But why would she need him in such a romantic place? And how could the main character even think that Lorena had any feelings for him? What an idiot. The blind beast sighed heavily. He was just a burden to everyone. How could anyone love him at all? Fool that he was, he dared to hope his life might have meaning again. That light might appear in it. But no. This girl would never love him. Today, the main character had been able to touch her. It was so exciting and so necessary. When his fingers brushed Lorena's skin, he felt she was close, that everything was okay. Elon painfully squeezed his fingers, letting go of the ghost of hope. She lived a full life, and he only built illusions. She didn't see a man in the beast. Which was not surprising. After all, he was weak and blind. No one could ever truly love a hunted animal. He could only count on pity. The maid quietly knocked on the door of Elon's bedroom. It's time for the master to have dinner. Let Lorena come in. What's on the menu today? Ilan wondered. Let the main character guess for himself, she said with a smile. Well, judging by the smell, sausages and spices. That's right, Lorena said. Today Sir Elon has sausages on the grill. Let the handsome young man eat carefully, she said softly. The sausages are very hot. The maid blew gently on the food so as not to cause discomfort to her master. Today, she still couldn't find that damn Karina. She was forced to write her a letter asking for a meeting. But for some reason, her insistent letter remained unanswered. Maybe they'd just kidnapped her and brought her here. Sorry, though she was quite rude and persistent in the letter. This apparently frightened the main character. Something was bothering Lorena. She sighed heavily for the 10th time. How could the young man help her? The maid was sorry for making the master worry unintentionally. Oh, it's nothing, she said, just personal troubles. But just look at her. Instead of working, she was daydreaming and flying in the clouds. Employee of the year indeed. By the way, why was Elon himself in a bad mood? It had started after the visit to the cafe. What's the matter? Elon asked, noticing Lorena's distracted mood. The girl really did want to go to the cafe. Yes, she talked about it, but it was clear she didn't like it there very much. She kept getting distracted. Yes, a fine young man, straight as an arrow, she said. But this is my first time in the capital. I haven't even had a chance to walk around and look properly. So that's it? Aileen nodded. How do you like the capital compared to your native village? It's a new era of civilization, Lorena said, eyes wide. There's even sidewalks. Everything is paved with tiles. Where exactly do you come from? Ilan asked. Lorena smiled. There are so many beautiful people here. When I look around, it feels like everyone has stepped right out of a painting. Then maybe we can take a little walk, Ilan suggested. And aren't you tired today? Not at all, she replied. Outside, a silver moon lit up the Duchy's mansion. It was big and bright tonight. On the left, beautiful yellow flowers, the size of Elon's palm, were blooming. They only blossomed under moonlight. Mother Alona loved these flowers very much. Indeed, tonight the moon was brighter than ever. And where is that treasured healing flower that's supposed to restore your sight? Lorena asked. That's where the inky beauty hides, Elen said with relief. Luckily, the flower hasn't started to fade yet. It just needs to hold on a couple more days while Karina is still somewhere. Lorena liked the silence and simply enjoyed the blooming flowers. There were so many of them. It was simply fabulous. Elon was glad the maid found joy in such simple things because of him, she never got to go anywhere else. Enough of this nonsense, Lorena said. I'm ready to serve the beautiful young man faithfully, truly, until the end. She might have beaten him for those words if Ilin hadn't been away at the estate. She had snuck off for a walk herself, but Ilin didn't listen to her at all. She was just curious, that's all, still a girl. But that didn't mean she didn't like working for Elon. In fact, she had it pretty good, according to Bernard later. The young man smiled. Apparently, there were still places Lorena wanted to visit. Let me choose, he said. Lorena will go wherever I want. But you can't see anything, she reminded him. Then it's better for you to choose, he smiled. Well, if that's the case, Lorena said. We need to walk in Trail Park. The views there are very picturesque. That's great, Elon agreed. In that case, we'll go tomorrow. Lorena was very grateful for his efficiency. They would have a great time. The park belonged to the Count, who adopted Karina. There, they would finally be able to meet. Suddenly, Elon froze. What was the matter? Why did he stop? If the Duke has other plans tomorrow, Lorena began. It's no big deal, Elon said quickly. We can reschedule our walk. That's not the point at all, Ali admitted. He'd just realized he had absolutely no experience walking with ladies. What a turn of events. For such a wonderful young man with such a beautiful soul and heart. Well, there must be a lot of people in the popular spots of the capital, right? Yes, Elon said. In that case, the blind beast can't lose face or disgrace his duty. They should practice before going out in public, Lorena suggested. Maybe I can help. Elon gallantly extended his hand to her. Her heart beat faster. What was this feeling? They weren't here for long. Lorena was from another world, and this wonderful young man was destined for another girl. Elon didn't want to draw attention to them, so their walk had to look natural. That makes sense, Lorena said carefully, placing her hand into his palm. The greatest warrior straightened his back and walked forward proudly, guiding his companion. Step by step, the girls struggled to keep up with Elon. This was what they meant when they said the strongest swordmaster was far from high society. When they walked side by side, their steps should match, but Lorena was like a chicken chasing a long-legged heron. If the walk is supposed to be natural, Lorena said, you really have to try. She asked Elon to slow down. They needed to get their rhythm right. As soon as her hand rested on Elon's forearm, he froze, wondering what she was doing. This will make walking much more comfortable, Lorena explained. Since you're taller than me, this way our steps will be even. Noticing Elon's awkward pause and bewilderment, she quickly withdrew her hand. Apparently he was uncomfortable, but Elon immediately caught her hand and placed it back. No, Lorena, you're right. It really is much more comfortable this way. A warm smile appeared on his face. Now we should try again and develop our natural walking pace.